how do we actually surrender? And that's the question. And this is very simple. This is just 2 words: slow breathing.
Have been chatting for quite some time. Hello, Tim.
Hey, Kate, how are you? So good.
I'm very well. Yeah, likewise. How are you?
Yeah, very good. I'm already listening for an hour. It's amazing.
Oh, wow. I'm really glad. I'm glad. So, yeah, we met quite a few years in London under a tree where you introduced to me that breathing was more than just something my body did unconsciously.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah, and if you start to breathe more consciously, and that is like a wide variety of breathing techniques, you get more out of life, simply said.
Yeah, well, who wouldn't want that, basically? So, yeah, and you know, with as much love as I've got in my heart, you are a little bit crazy, and I do like that. You know, the title you carry is a freedom teacher. So
Yeah.
Can you explain to me what that is and what you offer?
Well, basically, I believe that we can do a lot ourselves. Yeah. So, of course, if you break an arm, you go to the doctor, and like if you I don't know, have an accident, you need surgery or stuff like that. But I believe that 80% of our personal development, but also physical development and like extreme training, like you're doing, can be done through 5 things. One of them is mindset. Yeah, simply said, glass half full thinking.
Yeah.
Second is nutrition, right? You're totally aware of that. Third is exercises. And here I'm like the opposite of you. Although I believe it looks like the opposite, but I'm promoting always low intensity workouts, but more often. So every day have a daily ritual with exercises. I'm doing like the 5 Tibetan rites, but you can do anything, max 10 minutes, and do it continuously. And then suddenly you start to grow, making leaps forward without actually being aware of it, So that's number 3. Number 4 is breathing techniques, which is amazing what you can do with breathing. I think we're going to talk about that a little bit more. And number 5 is cold training. So cold training can be like ending your shower cold. That's already enough of cold training, especially where we live. I'm from Amsterdam. You are, where are you in the UK?
Near Bristol.
Yeah, I asked you last time also. Sorry about that. And so number 5 is cold training, and it can be as simple as ending your shower cold, but as extreme as taking an ice bath. Whoa.
Wow.
So those things, and I practice this continuously. Like I have my morning ritual, which is like a little bit of yoga and a little bit of breathing. I'm guiding a lot of breathing. Like today I'm having 4 sessions. If I include this, well, we're probably not going to do like intense breathing session, more talk about it. But I have in my morning practice just, maybe 5 or 10 minutes of breathing techniques. And so these are my 5 pillars. And what you create through that is freedom. And freedom is a very big thing in a way, because, from one point of view, a bit paradoxical, are we able to be free at all? Because we all have a framework in which we grow up, On the other hand, yes, definitely. And I believe there's 5 forms of freedom, and it starts with mental and physical freedom that we can create through these 5 things, like mindset, nutrition, breathing, exercise, and cold training. And from mental and physical freedom, so mental freedom is basically thinking less but having higher quality thoughts. Physical freedom is to be able to do what you want physically. Like my child wants to climb a tree with me, I can do that. That's freedom. Like I don't have any pain. I'm 15 now and there's like nothing wrong in my body. You know what I mean? So, and from these 2 levels of freedom, mental and physical freedom, come kind of automatically the other 3 forms of freedom, which is social freedom. which is not about having 5,000 Facebook friends or, more than 5,000 followers on Instagram. It's more about knowing yourself. If you know yourself, you allow yourself to be more vulnerable, and other people can open up to you too. So you have deeper social connections, social freedom. Then there's financial freedom. Financial freedom is basically being able to do what you want to do whenever you want to do it. We don't need 10 million in the bank, but if you're able to, to book a holiday or to buy the food that you can, you're already, having financial freedom. It's about abundance, not about how high your bank account is. And then the third form of freedom is spiritual freedom. That has nothing to do with, I believe in angels and you don't, so I'm more spiritual than you. That's just spiritual ego. Spiritual freedom is about having a truth that works for you. And that's it. And it can be believing in angels, or healing methods, but not per se. Having a truth that works for you, that is not holding you down, but makes you grow and blossom and things like that.
Yeah. They're really powerful. And when you say them, it just sounds sensible. I just found myself going, yeah, I'd like that too.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Part of what I've got coming up in 2 years' time is also a platform to share these type of philosophies, to not inspire everyone to climb Everest or swim the Channel, but to look inside their own lives and go, well, where do I have the freedom to do what I want to do as well? And if not, how can I find that?
Yes. I mean.
Yeah. So, I'd love to hear a little bit more about, how I can support myself on my challenge in the physical realm, in those real moments, because just to refresh, what I'm doing is in the cycle, I'm covering 3,100 miles, which is just over 5,000 kilometers, preferably in 7 to 10 days. So I'll be very sleep deprived. Then I will be swimming in, for me, very cold water, but for you, maybe it's a warm shower, for up to, between 7 and 17 hours in the Channel. And then I'm moving to Everest to put myself in almost the dead zone to summit the highest peak in the world. And how I can survive.
Absolutely amazing what you're doing, first of all. Let me start first with, the Wim Hof method is also about this cold training. So what is, what is an ice bath, and what does that do to somebody? Well, an ice bath is on one hand complete stress, so you get to see how your body reacts into that ice bath, and which is basically it's like that, like you hold your breath or you breathe high. Now, what is the trick to be okay with an ice bath? It's not to push further, this like, I call this the male energy, this fighting, and it always has to be more and stuff like that, like your grades are never high enough. It's how we're all raised in a little bit, we tell our kids, what, only a 8 on a scale to 10, why not a 9? You could have done better. Well, true, we can always do better. What is the trick to be okay in an ice bath is to surrender. Yeah, we get to be stronger if we surrender. It sounds like a paradox, because what we learn is if we want to be stronger, we have to fight harder and train more and stuff like that. But the paradox is that if we surrender, we actually get to be stronger. And I'm just feeling your energy. When you're doing, like, for it doesn't matter which of the three you're working on, because it's all extreme, like, and you called me weird, by the way, right? I'm just leaving it there. But within a high performance sport, there's this moment where you will surrender, because if you don't, you crash, basically. If you keep on fighting, you cannot make 3,000 miles of bicycling within like 10 days. It's impossible. You have to surrender to the pain, surrender to your shortage of breath, the lack of oxygen, the buildup of lactic acid, like whatever. And this is where, you know, just before you get into that runner's flow, where suddenly you're all like, whoa, I can keep on bicycling, you know, like I'm okay. Just before that, you are surrendering. You know, you feel some physical pain, mental pain, it doesn't matter. And then you surrender. And this is after that, you get the flow. So if we learn to surrender, we get to be a lot stronger. And I don't do 10% growth. I do times 2, 3, 5, 10. Startup thinking, 10x growth, you know, 10 times growth. You're an example of that, of what we are able to do with our body. And I'm not sure if you do this consciously, but what you do on the way, you know, in such a high performance race, is that you surrender to whatever you're feeling. You stop thinking. You just keep on going.
What I used to do when I trained in triathlon was, I call it a body scan, but I would put, like, my awareness would not be in my head or my feet where you think they would be for running. I'd move it down my body. So it would just sort of rest in my shoulder, and I'd almost talk to my shoulder and say, how are you feeling? What do you need? You know, are you okay? You know, do I need to move my hand backwards a bit or move my shoulder forward a bit? Or, you know, am I, you know, and so I actually had conversations with my body every few kilometers to make sure that everything was in order and happy.
Yes, and that works amazing, right? This is basically, I just heard you say that we all have the power to self-heal ourselves, but this is what we do. And the funny thing is, I can show you with a little trick. Maybe that's nice to do, like what directional breathing does to you, because this is what we're talking about. You know, like say I'm running 100 miles, and at 40 miles, my left knee just hurts, and I'm starting to breathe into my knee and putting attention into this. What is actually happening? Shall we do a little like game? Yeah. You already have your hands there because you need your hands. So everybody have your hands here. Now, stretch your fingers backwards and then look at your hands and put those lines, you know, lines in the palms of your hands on top of each other, but keep your hands stretched backwards, right? And now slowly you close your fingers. Yes, please do so all the way. And then if you look at the tips of your fingers, you may see that one of them is larger than the other. Which one is it?
The right one.
The right one is larger. For me, the left. Now, that doesn't mean anything, by the way. Now take the one that is smaller. So your left, my right. Look at your hand and focus on your hand, the smaller hand, for the people that are joining, and breathe slowly while looking at your hand. So as slow in as you can, and like 2 or maybe 3 times slower out. Maybe you can feel something tingling. Maybe you can see the color of your hand change. Just breathe deep. If you want, you can add something like breathe from the heart. So breathe from your heart into your hand, or from the crown, or whatever your spiritual practice is. You know, nothing too serious, just play around with everything. Let's do 3 more breaths, very slowly. Like 1 more. As slow as you can, focusing on your hand. Feel it tingle, maybe. All right. Now, let's do this again. So you stretch your fingers backwards and put those lines on top of each other again. And at the end, you just close your fingers.
Ooh.
What do you see?
The left one is slightly bigger now.
Sick, right?
Crazy.
So I could, you know, like pretend to be the magical spiritual healer now that can do anything. But, you know, like let's be a bit, you know, like I'm totally intuitive, but I use my mind too, you know, so how can we explain this? This is actually that our minds are so much stronger than we think. By Just looking at your hand and breathing into your hand, what is happening? We direct more blood to that hand. So it looks like, well, it's actually growing short term, but because you direct more blood into that. So what you're doing when you're running, and you're like focusing for 10 minutes on your left shoulder, for example, you are actually directing more blood there. So with more blood, more oxygen, faster healing, recovery, whatever.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really obvious. I think there's tests as well with plants that if you plant a seed and praise it love and give it attention, and the other one you still water but you ignore, it will grow at a slower rate as well. So why not us as well?
Same with our body, and even stronger. Yeah. So the question is, of course, okay, surrendering, it's a very spiritual concept. Oh, surrender, but how do we actually do that? Oh, I'm surrendering, one is all, blah, blah, blah. I'm actually also, I'm getting my shamanic teachers, and I was just listening to Andrew. It's totally amazing. I love that part. And yes, we all want to live from the heart, from our intuition, you could say, but to use your brain is also good. So how do we actually surrender? And that's the question. And this is very simple. This is just 2 words: slow breathing. Let's go back to this story of the ice bath. If you go into an ice bath and you're able to slow down your breathing, this is where you surrender to the external factor, the ice bath, total stress, bloody cold, whatever you want to call it. Your mind is like raging, saying like, am I crazy? Why did I sign up for this? I did like 500 ice baths. Every time I'm in front of it, I have the same thought, like, why, God, like, why am I doing this? So how do we surrender is by slowing down our breathing. And the more you practice breathing techniques, and I'm very fond, I'm an instructor in the Wim Hof method. Wim Hof is the Iceman. I'm fond of this breathing technique, but there's more breathing techniques that look alike. What happens if you do like a breathing technique like that? It's like actually having a run outside, like interval training. Yeah. So a round of Wim Hof method breathing consists of 3 phases. Phase 1, breathe a lot, breathe in deeper and faster. You're getting more oxygen in, you breathe out more CO2, you get slightly more into that sympathetic nerve system, that fight or flight, but not, like you have healthy stress and unhealthy stress. So if it's not too much, it's actually a healthy thing. Then the second phase of 1 round of breathing is to hold your breath after breathing out. Now, already amazing how people that think they can hold their breath for 30 seconds and they hold their breath for 3 minutes, so you can grow there too, which is not really the point. It's not, because it's not about competition. Competition is fighting again. It's about working together, surrendering too, right? So phase 1 is breathing a lot, and phase 2 is breathing out and holding your breath. And phase 3 is called recovery, where you take a deep breath in and you hold it for 15 counts. Now, what is happening? It's like interval training. How do you build runner stamina? Is to run and then walk. Intensity, relaxation. Breathing deeper, faster, intense. Activating the fight or flight in a healthy way. Breathing out, holding your breath is like falling into your parasympathetic. It's called the meditative state, rest and digest. And it's funny how you can, if you would wear a pulse meter or an oximeter, in that fast breathing phase, say, I think your heartbeat rests, like normally, now it's probably like 65, 70, but normally it would be like 50, right? If you go into this breathing phase, it might go up to 100, something like that. It's going up for sure. And then you breathe out, you hold your breath, and it drops to, I think, 30 in your case. And what you notice is after a few rounds of these breathing techniques or similar breathing techniques, that you're able to breathe a lot slower. So you're able, surrendering is like the how-to. There's a mental part, of course, acceptance, awareness, gratitude for the things you have. And there's the physical component, the how-to. It's just 2 words: slow down your breathing. That's maybe 4 words, but you know what I mean. You know, like slow breathing. Breathe slowly.
There we are. Yeah. Yeah, it's always interesting because this tool we have since birth, you know, we have it till the day we die pretty much. And we seem to neglect that we can have such control and power over our emotional states, over our also ability to achieve certain things in extreme elements by controlling or manipulating our breathing, if that's a word, to artificial.
Because our breath is completely automatic, right? The autonomic nerve system. You don't have to think about breathing, but, and this is why the breath is the bridge. We can consciously change our breathing. We can start breathing slower now, and immediately your heartbeat goes down, your adrenaline levels drop, and we can hold our breath, which, you know, other things are happening, or increase our breathing. So by breathing deeper and faster, that's one way, slowing down our breathing. And the third is breath hold. If you combine things like that, and the ultimate goal is to breathe as slow as you can, you get to influence that autonomic part. So the release of hormones, you know, like dopamine, endorphins, gut health, inflammation, acidity of your system, everything you can influence in a positive way by breathing techniques. I'm getting the chills like all the way up to my crown, because this is amazing. You know, I think I will do it, scream it off the roofs, because it's so yet so profound that if we would, as humanity, we would have a daily breathing practice and practice slow breathing, we would really get to that world where we want to live in. You know, so you can do this by yourself, and you have an immediate effect on your surroundings as well.
Yeah, because we would react less if there was something that triggered us out there in the world. We wouldn't.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, because say you say something and I want to react immediately. You know, like, hey, your hair, did you have a haircut? I don't like it. So you say something like that, and I feel hurt. My natural reaction could be, you know, like snap back. But what happens if you get into stress, where 90% is just made up here, because you didn't mean it that bad, but I perceive it bad, is, you know, what happens to my breath? It goes up, either high breathing or high and hold. Mm-hmm. And if I'm able, you can be able to, before you experience the stress, notice your breath and already know that stress is coming. And by slowing down your breathing, you get to be mindful. You know, mindfulness, big word, but how to do it? Slow breathing. And you don't react in that way that maybe you did for the last so many years, you know?
Yeah, very important.
Yeah, so and just, you know, like how can I help you? You know, there's 3 ways you can use breathing techniques when it comes to high performance sports. Mm-hmm. One is beforehand. If you do like a breathing technique, like, I don't know, like say 45 minutes of breathing, this is pretty intense. You get to store after 45 minutes twice as much oxygen in your muscle tissue. It means more O2, less CO2. That means that your cells can keep on burning in the aerobic state where there's more oxygen, and you produce less lactic acid. Yeah, so where the man with the hammer comes, normally after so many miles, he will come later. And the acidification of your body will start later. I ran half a marathon, totally untrained, just a 1 hour and 15 minutes breathing round, and I ran it within 2 hours. And I'm really not a runner, you know, so we can all do amazing stuff. So beforehand, it's for alkalizing your body and elevating the O2 divided by CO2 ratio, right? Yeah. Then during, you know, if you get out of breath, the trick is, and this is pretty awkward, and I'm still not comfortable with it, but it works amazingly. We start breathing deeper and faster when we get out of breath. If you would start breathing like that before you get out of breath, you will get out of breath much, much, much later. So basically, you keep on removing the CO2 and adding the oxygen, although you're not yet out of breath. Yeah, so breathe deeper, maybe a little bit faster. And this, I'm talking about what I know, but also what I feel.
Mhm.
If you get really good in something, you actually breathe slower. But you can play around with this in your training, see how it works for you. And then after intense workout, and this is especially handy for you, like you get to have 5 hours of sleep, spend like half an hour on breathing technique because you release lactic acid. Lactic acid is just because of a lack of oxygen in your muscle tissue. And if you do some breathing techniques like Wim Hof method, basic breathing, or I can share some videos later if you like, so you actually get to see what I mean. You can use these breathing techniques to get rid of the lactic acid. The overall result is that you're Wonder Woman or Superwoman, but and that is mostly in your mindset. But you can use these breathing techniques to basically have that very powerful thought, the most powerful thought, I'm okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Because what I'm acknowledging along this journey is there is a huge sort of loop in that if I'm physically suffering, it will impact my mental, emotional, and driven self. So if I can artificially elevate or manipulate one of these to be more positive, then I can stay in that mobile and positive state a bit longer as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What I'm hearing is because I was saying just earlier that I'm revisiting my bookend routines. I will definitely be building in breathing techniques in making sure that every single day I focus on these techniques.
And I can help you too, just give me, we can always, talk WhatsApp or FaceTime or whatever. So if you need help on the spot, I can help you or design your breathing ritual. Yeah.
That would be amazing. Thank
Yes.
you. And yeah, I'd love to carry on talking and actually do some exercises, but being a summit, I far underestimated the time to spend with people. Could I end on 5 questions to ask you and your insight in them?
Sure, please go.
For leaders today, what is the one skill you think that they need that you may be seeing?
Empathy. Apart from rational speaking languages, there's all these forms of intelligence. In the end, the person that connects all the people is the empathic person that is stupid, doesn't know any languages, doesn't know any mathematics, no coding, nothing, but empathy is the most powerful thing. And that is what leaders need, but also what successful leaders cultivate, empathy.
Yeah, very powerful, yes. And personally, what do you follow more? Is it logic or intuition?
I've heard my whole life, you're so intuitive. I don't worry about you. That's what my mother said. So I grew up with being very intuitive, but I also have a very long history as working as a trader in financial markets, where it's intuition totally. But I've found with myself too, if I become like over intuitive, I start to fly. So I use my ratio to back up my intuition. And if I feel something that I cannot explain, and there's so much what I feel that my mind cannot grasp, but if I feel something and I can explain it rationally too, and this is how I love to make things simpler, this is where I found the truth. So where the two align, basically. Otherwise, it's just a feeling. And I don't want to make it smaller than it is, not like just a feeling, because that's like my intuition is my strongest part. But I learned to use my ratio too, because also, yes, intuition is important, but to be able to explain it in simple wording, you really need your head for that, So I like to do both. Intuition first, that's like the sacred gift, and the rational mind is the faithful servant.
Yeah, wonderful. Very well put as well. And how do you deal with perceived failure or not achieving your goals?
Well, that question implies there's something to reach. Well, you may have a goal, but it's not about the goal, it's about the path towards there. you know, and somebody's coming in, one of my kids, got 5 these days. So basically, I'm a star in failure. You know, I failed so many times that I'm from reporting, for example. The more you fall, the more you're able to fall, and the less yourself. So failures don't exist. It's just a lesson.
Yeah, yeah. The more I'm asking that question, the more I'm realizing that it doesn't create anything. You know, it just creates a binary world. But it's definitely the journey that we're going on. Yeah. And what keeps you motivated every single day?
Well, you know, like it's basically slowing down my breathing, because of course, you know, like having this mind, I get to have these feelings of not good enough, and you know, like I would love to be without, but if I'm honest, you know, it's still moving around sometimes. And whatever I do, whenever I create stress, because that's what I do at that moment, I slow down my breathing and I take my baby steps. Yeah, my baby steps are like a little bit of morning yoga, a little bit of breathing, and also opening my computer and making sure that I did the stuff that I had to do. You know, I feel that I travel a lot around the world. It's very sympathetic, you know, fight or flight, always on the move, basically. But honestly, I felt that now I'm a bit done with the lockup. You know, it's time to travel again, but the airspace is not open yet. Although I'm doing enough, you know. So baby steps and slow breathing, and hashtag never, ever, 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 ever swear word give up. Because that's the difference between success and failure in the long term. Do you give up when it becomes difficult, like when everybody gives up, or do you keep on going? And you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Because you're the living example of this.
Yeah. Thank you. And lastly, to everyone listening, what one message would you like to leave us with?
Breath awareness. Be able to slow down your breathing. Actually, I don't want to, you know, like be oversimplifying, over very simple, but if you're able to slow down your breathing, you get to see what is real and what is not, because you calm down. And you know, like people can go to my YouTube channel to see whatever. I have like a zillion videos about breathing techniques, much more than the Wim Hof method. Play around with it, you know. But in the end, if you experience stress, slow down your breathing and make it a game. So if you're walking in the park, breathe in for 8 steps and breathe out for 16 steps. I'm just saying something, you know, play with it. Slow breathing.
Yeah, it's really powerful. And, you know, I volunteer for a homeless charity for 16 to 25-year-olds. And, you know, my mentee suffers with anxiety. And one thing I actually do is ask her to put her hand on her tummy and just on the phone tell me if it's moving up and out. Because what I've noticed is if she's breathing slower and deeper, suddenly her problems are still there, but she's able to process them better as well. So it's just such a simple technique that, you know, I love doing, but I'm also going to start playing around with it for you too.
Yeah, that's a very good point, because, you know, like if you breathe through the belly, and everybody can learn that. You know, some people, actually 90% of the people, this is just a statistic that I know, are breathing chest only. You use only 30% of your lung capacity. If you breathe belly only, it's 70%. So per definition, it's more efficient to breathe through the belly. But what's happening too is you massage your gut. And by breathing to the belly, you activate your vagus nerve, so you're calming down. If you breathe default, nose in, nose out to the belly, so nose belly, like Nelly, you get to get more out of life simply because you're less in your head and more in your body. And all this healing stuff and self-healing, it kind of goes automatically, you know, like it becomes default, becomes, how do you call that? Unconscious aware. You know what I mean? So without thinking about it, if you breathe to the belly, oh, you are doing great.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Tim, for your time, for your words of wisdom, for the oxygen you've shared with us as well. How can we get in touch with you for anyone listening?
You can go to, like, my name is for you English, difficult to pronounce, but Tim van der Vliet. Either go to YouTube if you want like content. It's a lot of videos, and I make it very simple too, like 5 minutes, cardiovascular system, breathing techniques, what is happening, you know, stuff like that. So you can go to YouTube, you can go to my website, of course I do one-on-one coaching. You can go to wimhofmethod.com and look for my name, but maybe best is just find my name in Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, or my website.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll be sharing it in the notes later as well once I've stopped this live summit as well. But yeah, thank you, Val. Thank you so much, Tim.
Graag gedaan. Thank you.
And I look forward to touching base with you later in the month as well.
Yes, let's have contact.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Namaste.